All right, everybody, how's it going today? Welcome. Happy Wednesday. I don't know, is it Wednesday? Been so busy around here. Haven't been able to focus. Thank you all for those of you that have called. You focused on your retirement accounts. You ready to get things started? Great. Let's talk about some of the investments today and how the market's performed that may be affecting your retirement accounts. So busy day on Wall Street today. There's actually a lot to go over. I'm not going to cover it all. I don't have enough time to cover all this. The point is the Dow was higher by 55. The S&P was down 1. The Nasdaq was actually lower by 55. Now here's the thing. 45, sorry. So here's the thing. There's a disconnect, right? And we've talked about this in the past. What does that mean? All the markets should be moving together. What happens when one index is lower and the Dow is hitting all-time record highs? So let's talk about that. There's a couple things to really focus on today. The Nasdaq was the weak link, and the reason the Nasdaq was the weak link is mainly because of a couple tech names. Let's go over to the charts. Here's a chart of Apple. You can see it on there. Basically, this drop that you see here today, none of the other stuff matters. This drop today is what the stock actually did today. It fell a little bit, actually just over 1.5%. There's some concern. There was an analyst that came out and said that the iPhone X demand, or 10, do you call it 10? iPhone X demand would be a lot lower than expected. So this analyst that tracks the demand for the iPhone says that demand is going to be lower by about 33%. Well, you talk about a company the size of Apple, 33% is a big number. So that was a pretty negative comment there. He also said that meant that production would be lower on the iPhone X by about 50% this quarter. So he's saying coming up right now, we're going to find out that production was actually lower than expected. That hurts some of the other names that are public that produce some of the parts and things. There was also the report about the QCOM and Apple sort of working together, paying for service, essentially. We won't go into that, but they got busted over in Europe. So that might have hurt a little bit too. Look, bottom line is the stock's has done really, really well. If there's an opportunity for traders, the short-term guys, to take some profits up here at these highs, pending maybe some bad news, if things fall, you might see an opportunity as a buying dip. That's probably what people were thinking there. So volume was a little higher today. That lets you know that today's push, here, I'll show you. So, you know, you can have a down day, but if the volume, this gray bar down here, is pretty low, then that means it's just kind of profit taking, no real fear or anything. The volume being above average today lets you know that people are taking this a little seriously. They may be locking in some of those gains and looking to buy on the next dip. Let's talk about a name that doesn't get talked about a lot, United Airlines. Look at the chart there. Was up around 78. Today it finished close to 68. Well, 69 to be exact. It lost 11.4% on the day, all in one shot. So all that goodness that came from the last couple weeks, you can see was immediately reversed today. Horrible, 11.4% decline. Here's what happened, and you take this however you want. The CEO said, the company said that they're going to increase capacity. And that's a fancy way of saying they're going to add some more planes, they're going to add more routes, they're going to do more routes frequently so that if they're doing like, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale to Texas. Now, instead of doing that 2 times a day, they might do it 3 times a day, which adds more seats, more revenue per mile. And so they're looking at doing that. Investors hate to see that with airline stocks because anytime you add more capacity, you add more cost, but you don't necessarily raise your net profit margin. So investors tend to respond negatively when airlines make those sort of adjustments. 11% seems like a big adjustment. I don't know if it was worth an 11% decline. So much so, the CEO even agrees here, and he came out and said the stock price is currently a great buy. So he thinks you should be out there buying shares of United. Not my opinion. It's not my statement. It's not my recommendation. That's just what he said. But analysts tend to disagree here in the short term because what they think is, so United will now have more capacity, but that makes it tougher to compete against the low-cost people. And so they claim that the price war going on with the airlines right now is only going to make it even harder to compete. So lower profit margins and, price war. I don't understand that. I looked up plane tickets the other day. I didn't notice any war going on. They seem to be charging a pretty penny there. So part of the reason for that is crude oil. Let's take a look at crude oil futures moving up to new highs. 66, I believe. It closed at 66.05 Actually, it's finishing here today at 66.05. That's not where it'll close. New highs, new record highs here. I don't really have any comments on that one. Just something I noticed. The dollar, you're going to see that in the news today, hitting a new record low. Pretty steep sell-off today. You can't even see it on the screen. I'm sorry about that. Let's transition back. I forgot to show you crude oil on the screen. That's a good look at crude oil, the futures market, heading up to new highs. On the exact opposite side of the spectrum, the dollar, which seems to be what everybody wants anyways, is a weak dollar. So mission accomplished, right? $23.28. So something to keep in mind there as well. Let's move on to General Electric. I know some of you are playing this General Electric. It is not going to be an easy ride, apparently. The stock was back down again today, 2.6%. Not quite giving back all of yesterday, but darn near most of it. So pretty good reversal there. Here's the thing. The company basically, let me see, where's this? Is this the one with the SEC? Yeah, so the SEC is investigating their accounting practices. This happened to Caterpillar a while back. Turned out to not be a very big deal. I don't think that's what people are focused on today. I think what people are focused on is the earnings, right? They had a loss for the quarter, but more importantly, we all kind of thought they were going to lose money. More importantly is they lost more than we all thought. In fact, they lost a lot more than we all thought. So I think that's the reason for the decline today. This sort of SEC accounting practice thing makes more of an interesting headline rather than anything of significance. It doesn't mean they're frauds. It just means there's something they want to look into. We'll get more information about that, but I'm not too concerned about that. One positive, though, if you're invested in GE, you're trying to buy this falling knife, I'll give you one positive. The company, when they released their earnings, they did hold on to their full year profit forecast. Now, that was an important metric because a lot of people, a lot of analysts were thinking they were going to lower that full year profit forecast. And the company said, we still think we can get there. So that's one positive. I mean, that probably held the stock from going to new lows today, in my opinion. That's pretty positive news there. So maybe a little whipsaw here back and forth. And, you know, it is what it is. Hey, in other news today, have you heard about the 30% tariff on solar panels and solar modules that are being made overseas? President Trump came out. They're going to make it seem like it was President Trump's idea. He didn't just wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to tax solar panels. This was a group decision, but he'll take the blame for it if this goes south. Here's the thing, though. Always read between these lines. Remember we talked about yesterday in our video, maybe I could put a link above there, about BMW and Mercedes testing out a subscription service. And we said, okay, that's fine, but who's going to really benefit from that if that comes to fruition? And it's the insurance company. So you always got to think a little step further there when you're investing for yourself or someone's investing for you. So this tariff, the 30% tariff on foreign solar panels or modules that are built outside of the country, basically when they bring them to the country, it's going to cost an extra 30% to get them in the door. What does that mean? Does that hurt companies that produce this, or will that help them? And I think what's important is obviously knowing these stocks and knowing what they do. I want to bring your attention to a company called First Solar. It didn't really do much today. It was up a little. This can be a volatile stock, and of course, I'm not making any recommendations for this. You saw the disclaimer at the bottom that we have to include. What these guys do is they obviously make solar panels and everything. A lot of production overseas. But if you read carefully in this tariff, the tariff covers foreign-made solar panels, modules, but it doesn't include the, how do you say it now? The film panels, the thin film panels that they make, any thin filmed product, which First Solar actually makes almost all of this, I believe all of it now overseas. That doesn't count. They won't get charged a tariff on that. So if this officially stays and they hold to this, what company would benefit the most from this? It'd be First Solar. At the very least, it won't take a hit because they don't have anything to worry about. Now, they do produce other solar panels and stuff, but the point being, this company has found the loophole, or at least I think they know they found a loophole. I don't know if they know it yet. I'm sure they know it, but just something I noticed that you want to keep paying attention to. And that's not really to say that this is a good stock buy. It's more of to say, when you see a news headline, put the politics stuff aside for now, but when you read the news headline or you see it, think about more than just what's on the surface. The fact that there's a tariff, okay, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about that. What company is going to benefit from that? That's where you want to put your thinking. So That's about all I have to offer you today. Is there anything else interesting out there at the moment? A mixed market. Earnings season will continue to mix these markets. The Nasdaq was lower today. We talked about because of Apple. I believe Facebook reversed a little bit there too. Big tech name 1.4%. Well, Amazon was lower and they did finish lower on the day. So you can see that's sort of weighing on it. Not because the Nasdaq's in trouble, but because the Nasdaq's had a great run and some of these stocks are taking a little bit of a break. So any level of fear at the moment, just in my opinion, doesn't exist. We need more information to see. Hey, if you need help with your retirement accounts, I hope you'll consider us at Jazz Wealth. Appreciate all of you that have considered us. Be sure to check out these 2 videos above if you're interested in any other type of retirement investing or investing in general. I really appreciate you guys watching. Leave me a comment down below. What do you think about the solar stuff? We'll talk to you soon.